juice.
Hey, welcome back to our Stupid Rex. I'm Corbin.
I'm Rick.
And you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter for more
Whatever
juicy
that was.
content. Thank you to everybody who supports on Patreon.
Yes.
Follow official Twitter account, subscribe, and hit that like button.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
And rest in peace, Om Shanti, whatever you want to say, to the master, our first ever dosed. The reason I'm doing this, I actually hadn't planned on doing it, and then I saw a bunch of people on YouTube telling us, like, oh, Ustad Zakir passed. We had posted about it on social medias before.
And he was actually out of town.
Yeah, before it happened. And people were reporting that it happened.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, when it happened, we posted about it. But I realized most of you don't follow us on social media.
Correct.
And so you're like, why didn't you send anything?
We were talking about, if you followed us on Instagram or Twitter, you would know we were not only talking about it, but we were giving actual info that was trustworthy.
Yeah.
Compared to news sources.
Yeah, it was wild time.
Yeah.
But it's
and Corbin was out of town, so
extremely shocking.
Really shocking.
And really sad.
Yeah.
A young man, honestly, I mean,
well, yeah, especially when
I know
you consider
he's technically old, but he's young still.
Well, today you look, there's a big trend of people looking at shows from the 1970s and people who were in their 40s looking like they were in their 60s. And it really is, 50's the new 30, 70's the new 50, and people are living into their 90s comfortably if they take care of themselves. And he was a young 73.
Yeah, he was fit. He was
fit, energetic,
sharp.
But apparently, I don't remember the name of the actual. It's a long name.
It's endoscopic. I think.
Yeah. It's a lung disease that the actual beginning of the name of it that is categorized for his type of suffering he dealt with. Sometimes they have a cause, but for his, they don't know the cause. And apparently it's something that he had to have been living with for a few years and just was keeping quiet and working. And that's pretty amazing that this was a shock, but it was not a shock, I think, to his closest friends and family because they would have known what he's dealing with.
Yeah, and it was an awful thing that happened.
Yeah, really. I couldn't believe it. Corbin texted me and I went,
yeah.
What? That's a bad joke.
Yeah, and then we found out that I know people that are close to him, and I just emailed to confirm. Turns out at the time, even though he was incredibly
Very ill
and maybe on the way out, he wasn't dead, but people were every publication was posting that he had passed already.
And then shortly after you sent that to me, I'm looking at the most recent updates from news, and it's all saying, he's alive, family confirms, he's alive, family confirms, he's alive, family confirms. And just that's the last thing the family and friends have to deal with at that point.
They shouldn't want that at all.
No.
It's so sad. And it was a long time. It was our first ever interview, which was incredible.
October of 2019.
And I still remember the first video we had ever seen of his, and I think it was horse running.
It was horse running, I think.
And it's insane how talented talented's an understatement for what he is.
He transcended talent.
He was the instrument.
Yeah,
I know he
transcended talent.
I know he doesn't like to be called the master, but he is. I can call him that.
You can.
Obviously, he didn't like that, but he was such a sweet man. He was such a sharp man, intelligent. Even this past year, he was in Monkey Man and did a great training montage. If you haven't seen Monkey Man,
oh, please do.
One of the best training montages in all.
Yeah.
I know it's not Indian cinema technically, but
that moment is
Indian cinema. I feel like, and it was. I feel so bad for his family and his friends. We got to know him for a brief moment in his life.
But it shows you he was so gracious. I mean, he could have easily just decided he was going to do a Zoom interview because he lived up in the Bay Area, but he was down here performing and arranged for us to not only come interview him in person, and, we didn't know how much time we'd have with him, and he gave us a long amount of time and then gave us free tickets to watch him. I don't even want to say perform because that's not what he did. I don't like. I guess the best way to say it is I got to experience him live. Mm-hmm. That's the only way to. It's not a performance.
We were new at that moment too.
Yeah,
we were new.
Yeah, I felt so I was a bit embarrassed to tell him when we met him
I think it's
that
like
we
8
were
months.
new to knowing who he was. I mean, remember what I told you? I had called up Pedro and said, do you know Ustad Zakir Hussain? And his immediate response was, "Oh, everybody knows Ustadi." And I said, did you ever get the chance to work with him? And he said, "Oh no, I wish, but no, everybody knows who he is." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Not us, we're done."
Yeah.
At the time,
I think we were like 8 months into the channel. I
it was
wanna say.
specifically because I shared the video again on my Instagram. It was October 20th of 2019.
Yeah, so it was 10 months.
10 months.
10 months into the channel.
Into the channel.
And we weren't at 1 million.
No, we were
weren't-
not at 1 million.
We're not like a big.
I-
we're not like a big channel or anything.
We were barely 250, I think.
No, we were past that.
You think so?
Yeah, I think we were.
We had already
think we
done
were
4
between-
celebration videos?
Yeah, I think we were between 600,000 and 800,000.
Okay. Well, anyway, we had never done an interview. Ever.
No, never.
We've done 40 plus now. But he was the first.
and in person, and it was insane.
And it's always been a thing of astonishment and humble pride to be able to tell folks, especially those who know him, that he was our first interview.
Yeah, and like every Indian watching,
Yeah.
grew up with
Of
this
course,
man,
of course.
and his talent.
Everyone knows.
Either on TV where he was doing
I
commercials.
mean, he was the head. I opened up the Associated Press and the next day, and he was the headline at the top in a section over there. They didn't even have to explain who he was. They just said, Ustad Zakir Hussain passes. Because the whole world knows who he is.
If you were in Indian and in music growing up, he was. I mean, there's nobody bigger.
No.
There's nobody like.
For decades.
Even if you
For
weren't a tabla
decades.
player, obviously, if you're a tabla player, of course, but
I would say in the minds also of Western musicians as well, the 2 biggest names from classical Indian music that have had an impact on American music and Western instrumentalists would be Ravi Shankar and then Ustad Zakir Hussain.
and he got to play with Ravi Shankar.
Of course. He's played with
Everyone,
countless legends, as he should.
and like including other dost or mitras of ours, and it was obviously we had posted because every associated article was saying he had passed,
Right.
And so you're like, they would have confirmed it,
Of course they would.
But like every other celebrity, Indian celebrity, was already posting.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the news was spreading wildfire.
yes.
Yeah.
And why whoever first broke it and chose to not confirm what I don't know why you'd want to get to that information first.
I like to assume that it was a mistake, not an intention. I would like to assume that somebody near and around the hospital heard from someone who was admitting him that he had passed. I'd like to think that, but it's
But he was here in San
kind of an
Francisco.
important story
Yeah.
to not get right.
Unless it was like a Indian like TMZ tabloid kind of thing.
I don't
They
know.
just the only thing they're there for is to get the news first.
Yeah.
Really, really sad.
And I'm sorry he had to. I'm sure it was his choice, so I'm not sorry per se as much as I am. I don't like the thought that he had to suffer, because if you know anything about or read up anything about what he was dealing with, it's not a pleasant experience to deal with that on an ongoing basis, and it just gets progressively worse as you have to deal with it. And he really showed no signs of letting up. I think part of that was he just wanted to continue to be himself and do what he did. And like most artists, I want to go doing what I do. I want to go doing what I do and
dying to die on stage as a
on-
musician, I think would be like the
absolutely.
dream.
Well, I think for me, it's like I want to be on set or on stage.
I mean, you want to traumatize a bunch of people?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just want to see him drop dead.
Hey, Rick, hit your mark. Oh,
He soiled himself.
to be or not to?
Yeah, it was such a talented man. To lose such a talent like that. And he was still, to this day, playing as well. I mean,
To this day.
playing as well as he ever
Oh,
has.
my stars. In many respects, better, I'm sure. And would have been, but it's one of those things where on the one hand, it is, I mean, he still could have been around and teaching and sharing his wit and his wisdom for a few more decades. However, I am glad his was a life that wasn't marked by an exiting too soon where we thought, what if he had been around, how much more he could have done. We didn't have to deal with that.
Yeah, like
we got,
Hussain,
yeah, we got to see a majority of what would have been his life bless us with his
like, even though he's had a long career, like if Mahesh Kale had passed.
right.
And he's like younger than you, I want to say, or is he older than you?
No, I think he's a few years younger than me.
Like,
that would be like, oh my goodness, he had so many more years to live.
even
But
though he's had a long
even
career.
even still, it's a massive loss.
Yeah.
And
And
if you haven't seen the interview, please do. I shared it on my Instagram. I mean, right at the get-go, you see how he's so funny, he's so witty, he has such amazing insight into not just the tabla, but music and artistry itself. And the other thing that's so amazing about a man of such stature is his humility. He is not in any way impressed with himself.
Yeah.
He doesn't consider himself to be any more anything.
I'm impressed with him.
And everybody is. And how can you not be when you watch him or listen to him? It's like any of the, it's not even master or great. It transcends mastery.
I don't know if you saw this.
It's ethereal. What he's able to do transcends. It's like, I'm always reminded, and this is a really pale comparison. Please don't be offended by the comparison. What I'm talking about is the mystery of transcendence in what you do so well that it can't be explained. There was a playoff game where Jordan just could not stop hitting threes. And it was really strange. It was just, he could not stop. And he turned and he looked at the broadcast table and he just went like, what am I going to tell you? I don't know. And it is. That's how I feel about how do you explain to somebody he wasn't a musician, but he was. He wasn't a master, but he was.
Mm-hmm.
It transcends explanation.
It was wild. I don't know, my post on Instagram, I said Om Shanti to him, and somebody commented and said he wasn't Muslim. I mean, he wasn't Hindu. And I said,
I know, but
neither am
neither
I.
are we.
Why does it matter?
Why does it matter? It's a genuine expression of just, it's like peace.
I'm pretty sure you can say that.
You can say amen to a prayer. You can,
I get it. He wasn't Hindu. I'm not Hindu. It's a sign of respect.
I saw it all over
love.
the place. There were countless expressions from people, Hindu and non-Hindu, saying Om Shanti. It's a wish of
Muslim,
peace.
but
It's a wish of peace to his family.
It's wild that's what would be somebody's.
I know.
The majority of them was sweet
That's
and
the
wonderful,
takeaway.
and everybody's so sad. And I don't normally do these things. It just felt like he was our first interview. He was more than a musician.
There's some icons that deserve a pause and a tip of the hat and an expression of, respect and honor. And if there's anybody deserving of that, it was him. And we had the blessing of having for a brief glint in his lifeline, we got to be there for a moment and interact with him.
And that was one of the highlights of this channel.
Yep.
Ever.
Always will be.
Not only getting to see the concert, but reacting to that video, like the multiple of his videos, but that first video specifically.
Yeah.
I will always remember the first time I had ever seen him play.
Oh, yeah.
On a video.
Yep.
Because
mind-boggling.
He does something that I've never seen anybody else
It's mind-boggling
do in my life.
Yeah, it's literally mind-boggling.
But Om Shanti, rest in peace. Much love. Thinking of his family,
absolutely,
and friends, students. I know he had a bunch of
all the people he impacted,
and
everybody
in India.
Who never. It's just like the passing of Lataji. It's you may not have even met the person, but they are such a part of your life that you have a personal connection to them that's very deep.
Yeah.
So
much love, Ustad.
Much love. Much love.
Juice.